In the cycling world, there's this assumption that everybody should be trying to ride as fast as possible all the time, and that if you're not doing that, you're somehow not a real cyclist. But honestly, it's kind of exhausting, and here's why I don't care about riding fast on my bike. Speaking of my bike, this video is sponsored by Wabi Cycles. Don't get me wrong, Wabis can certainly ride fast, but that's not why I ride them. Simply put, they're the most fun bikes I've ever thrown a leg over. To learn more about what makes them so dang fun, stick around to the end of the video to learn more about them. Being fit and being fast are certainly great reasons to ride a bike, but that's not why everybody in the world rides a bike, especially for me. Those things come secondary to having fun on my bike. That's why I ride in the first place. Riding bikes, especially Fixies, are just so dang fun that I want to do it every day. I have to do it every day. My day doesn't feel complete if I don't ride my bike. Sometimes I ride far, sometimes I ride fast, sometimes I ride short, sometimes I ride slow, sometimes I ride with friends, sometimes I ride alone. The point is, regardless of how I'm riding my bike, the point is to have fun on my bike. Personally, when I start to take things competitively, oftentimes I take things too competitively and they stop being fun. I know this from my personal experience of playing competitive games, that if I get way too into it, I stop having fun, which completely defeats the purpose of playing the game in the first place. I used to religiously play an online card game called Hearthstone, where I would play for maybe 2 to 5 hours a day. Sometimes I would have days where I was just playing for 12 hours, just being on that ladder grind, getting better and better, and I peaked. And I say peaked as in my competitive career of Hearthstone, I peaked at top 100 in North America out of millions of people who play this game. And I was absolutely miserable getting top 100. I hated it. Playing that game, which I started playing for fun, became a chore. And getting better and trying to be perfect became just such a slog and sucked all the joy out of the game. And the same thing would happen to me if I took my cycling as seriously. Getting better, getting faster, getting fitter, it wouldn't be fun anymore and it would just become work. And while I certainly can do it, I find that my life is much more fulfilling if I choose not to go down that path and not to ruin my favorite things in life like games and cycling. If you're somebody that relishes in improving and getting faster and getting fitter and crushing your opponents, by all means, keep riding your bike as fast as possible if that's what brings you joy. But for most people, including myself, that completely sucks the joy out of riding a bike, which is one of the greatest pleasures in life for me. I also just don't have a reason to be as fast as possible. I don't race, and I don't want to either. Just like how I can't stop and don't want to either. Nor am I trying to get my 15-mile commute time in under 45 minutes or anything like that because I work from home. I literally do not have a reason to be faster than I already am. There's also just like the thing that people who ride as fast as possible and continually push themselves on every ride seem just to be like not pleasant people when they're riding their bikes. Like, I was just out on the American River Bike Trail just walking the other day and a roadie zooms by and he sounded like one of the most bitter people I have ever encountered. I was walking behind some other pedestrians and he was like seething at them, like, pick a side, pick a side. And it's like when you're trying to ride as fast as possible, you see other people as just obstacles in your way, which is just like a dehumanizing experience and not a way that you should live your life. Because if they're not picking a side, you're gonna lose your PR or your KOM or whatever you're trying to go after. And that is just really not a way that I want to be riding my bike. And I just don't want to be as nasty as a lot of people who are trying to ride as fast as possible are. There is also a factor called asthma. I have asthma. If I push myself too hard, too fast, too soon, I have an asthma attack, and it's not fun. I kind of like being able to breathe. There was also one time I was riding with my friend Justin. Please be sure to send him #bonkman on Instagram if he follows you back. And he said, he knows this one segment where it's not very competitive, where he wants to see how fast I can go and see if I can get the KOM on it. It was just a sprint, maybe a quarter of a mile sprint. And I did it, My lungs were burning like hell. On my first attempt, mind you, after riding about 50 miles, I got second place on that segment. And did I care? No. I did not care, because riding that segment as fast as I possibly could in that moment sucked all of the fun out of riding, and I absolutely don't want to do that again. I also did take a track racing class at the San Diego Velodrome, and while I did have a lot of fun, I learned that racing is not for me. But what I liked about the class is that it was a very supportive environment, and people were encouraged to push themselves to be the best riders that they could be. And there was also a sense of camaraderie in the track racing class, where it's like we're all getting better together, and we're all getting faster together and learning better techniques together. But it wasn't so much like, I'm faster than you, so I'm better than you, as a lot of people who ride as fast as possible out on the roads seem to be. But also, after riding in that track racing class so hard that I felt like I was throwing up and standing on wobbly knees where I felt like I couldn't even ride my bike back home, I learned, yeah, I don't think this is for me. This is not fun. Fast is relative. Like, no, I'm not fast compared to the most serious cyclist roadies even out here in my hometown. If I were to ride with competitive cyclists, I would probably be middle of the pack, and I'm certainly extremely slow when compared to pros. But I'm not riding with pros, I'm not riding with other competitive cyclists, and I'm not trying to race people out when I'm just trying to go to Trader Joe's. Because there's a social aspect of riding your bike fast, where if you're riding with a group that wants to ride as fast as possible, you're expected to have the same attitude as them. And also, on the flip side, if you're riding with a group who just wants to go out and have fun, you're kind of ruining the vibe if you're trying to push people to ride as fast as possible. Biking, a lot of times, is a social experience, and if you don't fit in, you're not gonna have fun. And I personally don't like riding with groups that are super competitive and like riding as fast as possible, because I like riding my bike. First of all, my bike is a fixed gear, not optimal. Secondly, I like riding in clothes like this, just my everyday clothes. And if I show up to a road bike ride dressed up in my freaking boots, jeans, a beanie, and a blazer, I'm not gonna fit in. I'm gonna get ostracized, and they're not gonna want to ride with me, because that's how things work. Whereas if I go to a fixed gear ride and I roll up like this on my bike, people will just say, hey, cool bike. Fixed gear, for me, is at least much less competitive and much more chill and easier to make friends, which is an aspect of cycling that I really enjoy. And because fast is relative, I'm still one of the fastest people in whatever group that I ride with, usually fixed gear riders, in whatever country I'm riding in. Whenever I go to a group ride, or even hosting a group ride, well, if I'm hosting, I'm at the front most of the time and freaking pulling everybody, because people don't look at the routes. But if I go to another group ride, and it's one of those group rides where there's a fast group and a slow group, not by plan, but just by how things work out, I am usually in the fast group and towards the front of the fast group. Not the very front, because I don't look at the routes either when I go on group rides. But I'm already, like, relatively fast for the people that I ride with. And even when I'm just riding with friends, they apologize to me that they are not as fast as me, and that I have to slow down for them. Because when you get fast, you want to ride at a certain speed floor, and the faster you are, the higher that speed floor gets. Which means that if I were to get faster, none of my friends would want to ride with me, which is a big bummer. I literally have a reason to not be as fast as possible. And even right now, my speed floor is like a little too fast sometimes for the people that I ride with on a regular basis. I'm already like kinda fast. I wouldn't call myself fast, because I know there's people that are out there that are just like way faster than me, but good for them and good for me, because I don't need to be fast. For me, being fast is a byproduct of just having fun on my bike and riding so much. Whether it's raining or snowing or sunny or cold, I am out there riding my bike just because it's so much fun. Even one time I was riding with a roadie in Taiwan, and we were doing maybe 15 miles, and he asked me, why don't you join and ride with the clubs because you're fit enough to keep up with them? And I was just like, that's just not my vibe. I don't want to be having to keep up with a group. I just want to be having fun on my bike because for me, that's what riding is all about. Speaking of what riding is all about, this video is sponsored by Wabi Cycles. No joke, Wabi Cycles has changed my life, and I'm not just talking about the fact that they give me money to say the things that I would say anyway about them, but rather their bikes are actually so good that it's another thing to look forward to when I get on my bike every day. They help reduce the friction that we have and the excuses that we tell ourselves that we shouldn't ride our bikes or that we don't want to ride our bikes because they are just so dang fun to ride. And part of what makes it so life-changing for me and makes it so fun to ride is that these bikes are meticulously hand-built out of top-tier Reynolds 725 or Columbus Spirit steel. It has a ride quality that just encourages you to want to get on the bike and encourages you to keep pedaling the bike once you are on it. My Wabi is one of my most treasured possessions because it tangibly improves my life. And if you're looking to get one for yourself, be sure to check out Wabi Cycles linked in the description. And Fixie famous shoutouts to David K, Julian Corona, Brandon Black, Brent David, Mohr, Perez, and Ted Onchi for helping to make these fixed gear videos possible through the support on Patreon. And remember, a life is short, but don't make it shorter, so be sure to ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.